The first lesson is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 21 through 31. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is God who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them like a tent to live in, who brings princes to naught and makes the rulers of the earth as nothing. Scarcely are they planted, scarcely sown, scarcely has their stem taken root in the earth, when God blows upon them and they wither, and the tempest carries them off like stubble. To whom then will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes on high and see who created these. God, who brings out their host and numbers them, calling them all by name, because God is great in strength, mighty in power. Not one is missing. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my gods? Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. God does not faint or grow weary. God's understanding is unsearchable. God gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. In this reading, may we find God's word for us. Please stand as you are able for the reading of the gospel. The gospel is from the book of Mark, chapter 1, verses 29 through 39. As soon as they left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sunset, they brought to him all who were sick or possessed with demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring towns so that I may proclaim the message there also. For that is what I came out to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons. In this reading, may we find the gospel of Christ.
And now, God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. And all of God's people said, Amen. New York City and Park Avenue Christian Church at 85th and Park is a long way from my roots in that small rural community, the Delta of Mississippi, in the 1950s and 60s. Life was hard, racism was real, and raw. Bigotry was expected and acceptable and even respectable. Jim Crow laws and strict segregation was the order of the day. Whites on one side of town, blacks on the other, separated by a single railroad track, and never the two should meet except when black folks crossed to provide services for people on the white side. Arguably the poorest area in the whole country, with an economy built on old King cotton, picking and chopping cotton, was our way of life. I clearly remember the whites only and the colored only signs in public buildings and private businesses, separate entrances and waiting areas, separate water fountains, and always going to the back of the bus. I clearly remember the name-calling and the demeaning and dehumanizing insults. Nothing pretty about it. One cannot escape a background like that without being affected, without being traumatized and diminished, everyone in some way. I no doubt still carry the scars, if not physical, then surely emotional and psychological scars of that experience. But even in the midst of those mean, menacing, mad days, I have very fond and happy memories, believe it or not, of my childhood. I have memories of love and care, good character and concern and compassion from the people around me. Both of my parents were educators in the segregated school system there, and though they were strict disciplinarians and would often say to me, "Boy, you're going to be something even if we have to kill you," there was love. There was love. And they instilled in me and in my sisters a sense of pride and achievement, a sense that we could be anything we wanted to be, a sense that we could not only survive, but thrive and even soar. Those were my roots, and that's where I got my wings. Those were my roots, and that's where I got my wings. I got my wings in my roots. I know it doesn't make much sense, an oxymoron even, but it's true. I got my wings in my roots. Growing up in that rural environment so far from this place, I developed a love for the great outdoors, and sometimes just standing in a field of cotton, watching the cars pass and daydreaming, and sometimes just lying on the ground watching and admiring birds in the sky. I fell in love with birds as a child, and not only did I admire birds, but I developed a kind of envy and jealousy of birds. I used to watch birds, how when they got tired of the ground and had eaten their lunch, and when there was some danger in the dust, birds could spread and stretch their wings and soar, finding safety and security in the sky. It was there in the darkness and dirt and dust of the Delta, in everything that should bring death and destruction to the human spirit, that I learned to dream. Those were my roots, and that's where I got my wings. I got my wings in my roots. I don't know if she'll sing it tonight at the Grammy Awards or not, but the American country music artist Miranda Lambert has a new song. It's called Roots and Wings. I got red dirt stains on my blue tin jeans, calloused fingers from my guitar strings. While like the wind in the tall pine tree, I got roots and I got wings. I raise my glass on a Saturday night. I thank the Lord above on a Sunday drive. Daddy's hands and mama's dreams. He gave me roots, she gave me wings. Yeah, I got roots and I got wings. Roots and wings. And what I want to say to us this morning, this is the whole sermon, is that there are wings in your roots. Yes, they are. Whether you know it or not, there are wings in your roots. Your roots are where you will find your wings. Wherever your roots are, there your wings are found as well. Pastor, preacher, Professor Carlisle Marney, who I had the privilege of knowing and studying under Duke Divinity School in Durham, once often said in class to us that you got to learn to bless your roots, where you come from. That's where your power is found. Your redemption is found in your roots. That's where your strength is found. That's where you will find sustenance for the journey. Bless your roots. There are wings in your roots. And I think really this is what Isaiah the prophet is saying to us here in this 40th chapter. This text, by the way, is also the theme of the General Assembly of the Christian Church, the biennial gathering of the disciples of Christ every other year. This summer in Columbus, Ohio, in your neck of the woods now, Alvin, the theme of this year's assembly is Soar, on wings of eagles, soar. Isaiah was writing to a broken, defeated people who around the year 539 BCE, when the temple in Jerusalem had been destroyed and the whole nation led captive from their Palestinian homeland to forced labor and slavery in Babylon. 50 years, people had been under the hard heel of King Nebuchadnezzar and his conquering hosts. For 50 years, the people had suffered under the yoke of Chaldean bondage. For 50 years, they had prayed and waited. And now that there is some movement in their direction, there are new signs of deliverance on the horizon. There's a new king in Persia. Cyrus is his name, and he's conquered much of Asia Minor and now about to strike Babylon and liberate all of the captives being held there. It was evident to all that King Nebuchadnezzar would soon be defeated and Babylon would soon fall. The Persians, or the present-day Iranians, were known to be far more tolerant and humane and liberal than the Babylonians or the present-day Iraqis. So Cyrus pushed his way through the gates into Babylon. The possibility was presented to Israel. She could now look up with high hope and look forward to going home and rebuilding the nation and reestablishing their religion. It was the eve of liberation. It was the day before the day of reconstruction. The people were saddened because of the sufferings and deprivations of the past 50 years they'd been in slavery. They'd been downtrodden, down for 50 years. They were disheartened, discouraged, disenchanted, divided, tired, troubled, weak, weary, worn, wounded, scattered, scared, beaten, broken, beaten. It was time to be free, but they didn't feel it. It was time to return to Zion, to rebuild the nation, rebuild the temple, but they didn't have the strength, the zeal, the courage, the will to go forward. And here's Isaiah as a voice crying in the wilderness, saying, lift up your heads. There's hope on the horizon. God has not deserted us. The time of our deliverance has come. The day will come when every valley will be exalted, every hill and mountain brought low, the rough places made plain, and the crooked straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. But the people were still hesitant. They needed additional assurance. They didn't have the energy. They didn't have the soul power. They didn't feel the moral force necessary to go forward to rebuild the nation and the temple. They looked across the wide wilderness that they would have to tread on their way back to freedom and responsibility. They gazed across the broad, ominous desert, and they said, we can't make it. How can we go across a river we can't cross? How can we go through a wilderness we can't control? The future is so uncertain. We've been down so long that getting up hadn't even crossed our minds. But here's Isaiah crying out, get up, because God said so. God said it's freedom time. It's nation time, because I made you. You shall be free. Because I redeemed you, you shall have power. Because you are mine, you must stand up. Because I am with you, you will go forward. Don't let the distance discourage you. Don't let the difficulties dishearten you. That might be a message for us, huh? You think, maybe, huh? Don't let the problems get the best of you. Don't let the danger defeat you. Don't let the talk take you down. Do you not know, have you not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, does not become weary or tired? God's understanding is inscrutable. It's unsearchable. It's beyond understanding. God gives strength to the weary, and to those who lack might, God increases power. Though youths grow weary and tired, and the vigorous and choice young shall stumble badly. Yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They will walk and not become weary. Listen, we were made by God. We are loved by God. We're in the presence of God. Right now, right here, always. It's the way it is. It's not a mistake. It's not a myth that God is. It's not an exaggeration. God's love for us can't be exaggerated. God can't be contained in words, in doctrine, in dogma. God can't be contained in a church or a denomination, or nailed to a nation, or locked to a location, or riveted in one religion. God's love can't be exaggerated. It's big, it's broad, it's expansive, it's inclusive, it's radical, and nothing can separate us from God's love. And Isaiah said, do you not know? Do you not hear? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth who God is? Yes, there is ISIS and terrorism and war and poverty and evil and hatred and ignorance and bigotry and intolerance on the march, but God is. And what Isaiah is saying here, as he talks about God and the bigness and the expansiveness and the everywhereness of God, is that God's love can't be exaggerated. We need to make sure that we don't exaggerate the trouble and the difficulties that come in our lives, because God is in the midst of even that. Don't be surprised when trouble comes in your life. It is just a part of life and living. Everybody is either in trouble, headed for trouble, just got out of trouble. Don't be surprised about trouble. But remember, trouble can't stop the march of faith. Trouble can't destroy the forward progress of the church. It may delay it, but it can't stop it. Because we serve an anyhow God, and we have an anyhow religion, and we're going to make it anyhow. We serve a God who went through trouble and death in order to lead us through everything and anything. Setbacks will spring into comebacks, stumbling blocks into stepping stones, obstacles into opportunities. Those who fall shall rise. Those who are sick shall be healed. Those who are bound and uptight shall be free. Those who are down and out will be lifted up and soar. I'm reminded that when you find a diamond in the rough, no light can get into it or come out of it. It has no brilliance. It looks absolutely like nothing. But when they take it out of the mines of Africa and ship it to factories all over the world, and they break it up and beat it up and cut it up and split it up, every time they cut it, a surface on it, it picks up a little more light, and every time they break it, it shines a little brighter, and every time they knock it hard, it gets more beautiful and valuable. It's brilliant because it's been broken. It's beautiful because it's been cut. It's valuable because it's been chipped and chopped and chiseled. So it is with you, and so it is with me. So I can bless my roots, even those dark, difficult days in the delta of Mississippi, because it's in my roots that I discovered my wings. You can't keep me down. God takes what you thought would be my defeat and turn it into my victory. God takes what you thought would be my shame and turn it into my success. Oh, I can find some treasure even in my trash. God works a miracle even in my mess. Gives me a victory even in my vice. Gives me strength in my wholeness. Wings in my roots. So there's nothing to stop us. Nothing to fear. Though the distance is long and the road is rough and the battle is hard, there are difficult days yet ahead. There will be those who will press you and test you. There will be those who will criticize you and ostracize you and stigmatize you and misrepresent you and just plain lie on you and call you everything but a child of God. In this world, you will have trials and tribulation. But Jesus said, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. And so when trouble comes, listen, I'm done now, I'm through. When trouble comes, you can just reach back in your roots, grab your wings, and stand toe-to-toe and tell trouble. This is what you tell trouble. This is the takeaway today. I say when trouble comes, stand back, grab back in your roots, grab your wings, and tell trouble, bring it. For the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Bring it. If God be for us, who can be against us? Bring it. We are more than conquerors through the one who loves us. Bring it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. Bring it. Let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Bring it. The race is not given to the swift, but it's to the one who endures to the end. Bring it. I preach it all by myself. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Bring it. God takes us from strength to strength. Bring it. Weeping endures for night, but joy comes in the morning.